We are listening to a podcast for the 75th Independence Day of the State of Israel, which will be celebrated this year in a unique atmosphere. The security challenges are significant in all fronts. Social debates is deepening, and a general feeling that something is happening in the country. Still, it seems that if one looks at the depth of concerns that characterizes all sectors of society, one can agree that there may be a calmer place to live in, but there is simply no other place like this country. So today we will talk about all that too, but mainly we will try to find out how the values of the Declaration of Independence, the Charter of Independence, are reflected, if at all, in the perception of the system, in the nature of the IDF, and generally in the way in which we consider security challenges and challenges in general. Then we'll try to ask if anything has changed in this regard during the last 75 years. Here with us are Major General Gershon Hacohen, Major General Tamir Hayman, all reserved, and Major General Ayalon. So maybe we'll start with a general overview. It seems that we used to agree to have an agreement upon the main values that established in the Declaration of the Independence. It seems that we had some kind of consensus around the values that we kind of put on our chart. Is it still the case? Is it still the case that the majority of the society, the majority of the Israelis, looks at the Declaration of Independence? I don't know if literally will sign on it, but will say, yeah, this is our identification?
Absolutely, yes, from my point of view, regarding the majority of the Israelis. They are really taking this document as a definition of the basic Israeli spirit and all wishes and expectations about what's going on.
Has it changed during the years?
Not, but now it became more actual because it is really challenged by what's going on in the streets with a very known protest, and this challenging, bringing an invitation to a rereading of everything written here.
So rereading is something we will later discuss. But another point before I'm moving on, one of the central values of the Declaration chart is some kind of a commitment to equality, and all kinds of equality in gender, equality towards race, towards religion. Don't you think that equality today is in dispute and not within agreement?
The ways exactly to bring it to practical life, this is in a deep discussion and deep debate. But even those who are considered to be those who are a threat to the equality will never admit, and not because they are lying, that they are against this value.
But this is the way they interpret it. Okay, Tamir?
I think the Declaration of Independence is the most important secular text that really brings the basics of our society, and it should and need to be reinterpreted in an ongoing context. In the Jewish religion and Jewish values, we are really regularly rewriting and rewriting the old text of the Testament by addressing the challenges and that we are in, and we are lacking secular text like that. And this is the secular text. Unfortunately, due to recent events and due to the frictions in the Israeli society, it becomes politically tagged. And I was really surprised when once I've noticed my affections to the Declaration of Independence and considered by some of the audience as a political statement, which really very, very surprised me. So in that aspect, we need to do something in order to reunite and re-agree and reform our positions toward that Declaration of Independence.
In some way, it reminds us what the feeling towards the word democracy, right? It used to be in consensus. What do you mean? Israel is a democracy. It is a democratic state. But today, when you say I promote democratic values, you're suspected of being related to one part of the political man.
The secret I think, in those kinds of constructive texts is, in one hand, to agree that it is sacred, to agree that this is very important, and you do not doubt the fact that it is important and the things that are written inside are generally true. But on the other hand, do not accept them as they is, repeat it as like a motto, a mantra. No, you have to reinterpret them in the next and you have total freedom. This is, for example, democracy. As you said, you should agree that democracy is the worst, best, or as it says, the worst, the better way of controlling our daily life.
But now let's talk about what do we mean by saying democracy.
Let's talk about what is democracy from the foundation. And this is the tensions you always.
Yeah, but once in a lifetime you have to have this discussion. Otherwise, it's just words without any.
But it's an ongoing discussion. In my opinion, we should somehow create kind of a legal status to the Declaration of Independence, but that really, it's the beginning of the process. Then the next stage is the constantly debate and discussion regarding the relevance of what's written there to our daily life.
Tamir was talking about a secular way to read the independence chart. Is this your recommendation, or maybe you want to offer a Jewish way of reading it?
No, I think that first of all, let's go back to 48. It was relatively easy to agree and to be united behind a piece of paper and a declaration. We have to understand that it was after the Holocaust and the Jewish people. We were in a totally different state of mind, and it was totally different reality. And I agree. In 48, I think that there was a consensus within the Jewish community here in Israel. All of us, or all of our parents, accepted the declaration as it was understood then. But we have to understand the whole concept of democracy changed dramatically during the last 75 years. The whole concept of liberalism was totally different. Israel in 48 was far, or even in 49, 50, was far from being democracy in the way we understand democracy today. So I think that yes, we have to see the declaration as a kind of a vision, a dream.
A secular one, but as a secular one, or
no, it's not exactly secular. I think that look, our identity as Jews is not a secular identity.
I agree.
I think, Tamir, do you also agree?
Okay, of course, this is why it is so interesting. You know, we will not share the same idea. Otherwise, you know, it was very dull. I'm speaking only for myself. I am not trying to represent, you know, the people of Israel. I'm saying it because I know what I feel. You know, it's I don't accept the idea that my son will not have bar mitzvah.
But in what way will he celebrate his bar mitzvah? As a tradition,
you exclude citizens. You exclude Christians, you exclude Jews, you exclude atheists.
No. Islam and Judaism did not separate religion from our national identity or the way we understand states. So I cannot compare myself. By the way, even when you try to understand the American society or European societies today, you understand that it is a kind of artificial separation. But I'm not going to judge the Europeans. All that I'm saying that with the time, and since it was a declaration, nobody gave equal rights to the Arab citizens of Israel in 48.
So the better
So
of now?
I think that the way we have to understand the Declaration of Independence is every day, every year, to measure, are we getting closer or are we going backward?
Why? But there, it sets
if this is a measure, I think that we are much closer to the Declaration of Independence than the Jewish people or Israelis were in 1948, 49.
But are we getting closer, or
No,
now
no,
these
okay, so
days
no,
we're
first-
getting
first
far?
of
We're
all,
getting
we
far.
we are much closer today than we were in 48. Just a moment.
And just give me in perspective, the three of you today and like few weeks ago. Did we go
Okay.
backward, or are
No,
we?
It's,
No,
I cannot measure it every day and not every moment.
not
No,
every
no,
day.
it's-
But you know what I'm
okay,
talking, what I'm
well,
referring to.
From my perspective, it's for example, in the Declaration of Independence, if you ask me, probably one of the most important values is the pursuit for peace.
Right.
Are we close or no?
Okay.
I think that if this is the parameter, the pursuit for peace, I think that during the 90s, we were as close as possible. Today, we are going backward. But this is, you take me into details. This is
what I'm here for.
I think that we have to spend the next 40 minutes discussing it. And what is very, very important, since the whole concept, when we translate the Declaration of Independence to our daily life, we say, okay, it's a concept of a Jewish democracy. So I think that the main debate today is when we say Israel is a Jewish democratic state, what do we mean when we say Judaism or Jewish state? And what do we understand as our culture of democracy? And for me, this is because if you ask me, my definition to Judaism, or I see myself as a Jew, and I do not accept the racist Judaism, which I find in several ministers, Jewish supremacy and racism. This is not my Judaism.
Definitely.
So I think that this is exactly what we should spend our time in the next few minutes.
Do you want to comment on that? What do we, in your eyes, what do we mean when we say that Israel is a democratic and Jewish state? Are these two identities coexist, or
Yes,
they're
they are
clash?
coexisting. There is a tension, but we are really committed to make a daily synchronization regarding this tension. It means that the vision is to build here a homeland for the Jewish people, but the state is absolutely democratic by giving equal rights to every citizen in Israel. And in a lot of measurement, we can just ask, go to the Technion, more than 50% or 50%, or around 50%, also from Haifa University, are non-Jewish citizens. My doctor is an Arabic one. I'm trusting him, and everywhere you cannot really carry the daily life in all Israeli hospitals without all the assistance of Israeli citizens working together.
But do you really think we give equal rights to all citizens of Israel, regardless of their religion?
Of course, I'm not only accepting that, I will do my best in order to give them the feeling that they are living in equal
Not
rights.
the feeling, but not to
In
give
what?
them the feeling, to give them equal rights.
Yes.
Do they have equal rights?
But equal rights is not only by law. Feeling are sometimes much more than what you can promise by law. It means by empathy. It means by how really you are treating them to begin with your daily life.
But when they do clash, does one identity overrides another one, or they have equal?
Of course, there are clashes. Yes.
And then how do you balance between the two?
With wisdom.
With wisdom.
I think that fusing the religious and the national identity in one term really doesn't help you to understand better not the independence, what's written in the inside the Independence Declaration, and the reality of democratic Jewish state. And although it's hard, I think we should divide them, because we are in the brink of the Memorial Day. I worked, fought, and served with Arabs and Druze who are by Jewish nationality, although not written as it inside their identity card or identity, they were considered themselves in terms of nationality as part of the Jewish people. Therefore, when I read the rights for the Jews for a national state, but that's written in the Declaration of the Independence, I think that in the context of the Declaration, facing a war, and presenting the State of Israel to the international community, what Ben-Gurion is addressing is trying to prove a point that it is our natural right, historical right as a nation, and all nations have the right for a state, and the Jewish nation has also. This is why I don't accept fusing them by force together into one aspect, because that excludes other people from the state, from the nationality of the states of Israel into something else.
So we're talking here about the Declaration of Independence, and I want to ask you a simple question. Maybe the answer won't be so simple. Is Israel indeed an independent state today?
I'll start. Obviously,
just take into account that we have to sleep at night.
Yes.
After.
Obviously, like we are as independent as most national states, and in our particular place, the projection of power depends on our relationship, international connections, and our backing by the fact that we are being backed by a major power. This is one of the pillars of our national security concept, that being backed always by a superpower. In that case, Israel's special relationship with the United States is fundamental. Is something that we should not be embarrassed by it. We should be proud of it. And it doesn't really matter what we think about it. Our enemies consider us as almost one entity. And in that aspect, from the time we conceived, from the time that the Jews got the right for their own country, it's written in the Declaration. We will be part of the international community. We will abide to the international law. We will be part of the international community, part of the United Nations. We call upon the nations to accept it to the United Nations. This is not terms that being presented as someone who wants to create an independent that really trusts on ourselves. On the other hand, the decision-making of national security and our strategy is our own fate, and we create our own fate. And in that really doesn't change. But we need a sort of a realpolitik version of strategic thinking, which is, on the one hand, we make our own destiny. On the other hand, we should, in order to make that future, we should be part of an international, global, and regional ecosystem.
I'll make the answer simple.
You have a one-word answer.
Constraints. It means the fact that you must be aware and recognize international constraints regarding, of course, constraints coming from our alliances with the United States doesn't mean that we are not independent. To be independent, it means that you are judging and balancing your all constraints independently. And just to make a nice summary, I brought to my children a book from United States about United States independence war. And it was ended with the following words: The war of independence is over, but the struggle for liberty never ended.
I think it's a great opening because what do we mean when we say independence? We are not alone in the world, and the fact that we are not alone, so we have to understand the surrounding, the reality, and in this case, you know, this state was created by pragmatic dreamers. They had a dream. It was totally independent dream. When you listen or when you read Herzl, Jabotinsky, Ahad Ha'am, Ben Gurion, Berkett Nelson, the dream was created by Zionist founders. And they didn't care about America or Turkey or whatever. They started to speak about it only when they became to think how to create or to fulfill their dreams. But the dream was totally independent. And this is why when we are trying to understand we have the power. By the way, I think it's the first time in, I don't know, Jewish history that we have the power, as Tamir said it, not to shape, but to influence on our future. And
it's a great difference, shaping and influencing.
Of course.
So
we are not alone in this world, you know, it's okay.
Yeah, but you were all three in positions of where the decisions were made. Do we need to take into considerations? Let's initiating a war. Are we taking into considerations what the United States will have to say about it?
We should be free when we speak about Israel 40 years from now. This is what, you know, one of the things that I'm missing today when we take to the streets is, okay, what is the end game? Do we really believe that tomorrow we shall have a constitution? It's nonsense. Mm-hmm. It is a tribal society to impose.
What do you mean? This is what they yell in the streets now.
Look, we couldn't do it in 48.
Okay.
When we felt that we are together, that we are united today to impose constitution.
Not to impose, but to shape.
When we do not share values. We did not agree on what is good and what is bad.
Even not dreams are not shared.
So yes, we have to start with a very simple question: what do we see? Where do we see ourselves 40 years from now? And then to go back.
Can we shape a common dream? Can I and the ultra-Orthodox,
yes, I think that yes,
can we share a dream?
Yes, we must create it. It is a creation. A shared dream must be recreated every new challenge again.
And the problem is that if you observe the vector, you are totally right by your worries. Okay, if you compare the common shared dream that Jews all across the world share 100 years ago, you could find lines of similarity all over the globe.
Because it was a dream.
Yes, and as we realize the dream into reality, the facts are getting in the way, and the reality becomes more as our mission than the dreams. So I don't know if we should strive for new dreams, or rather strive for new reality that somehow manifestates the notion in the Declaration of Independence.
But you were talking about Jews all over the world, but I want to remind us that we have also non-Jewish.
But if we are thinking,
I've addressed you and the ultra-Orthodox.
Oh, okay.
The breaking through creative step of Herzl was not just to tell the Jews that they have a shared dream. It is to reunite them to a practical mission, something that they can share practically. It means to transform an abstract dream to something that they can accept it, even though they are in a huge debates regarding a lot of issues.
To translate the values of the Declaration of Independence to at least 3 or 4 languages. Each tribe should understand the values in his own language. Now, I think that it is achievable. For example, you spoke about you and the
Orthodox.
Yeah, Orthodox. If, for example, in the Declaration of Independence, God does not exist, and he will come to you and he will tell, I cannot sign on this document because God does not exist here. But God is behind it, because the whole Jewish concept. So let me try to give you 2 examples.
Yeah, but just have in mind that I'm not looking for a document. I'm looking for a way to translate this document into everyday life.
I agree with Ami.
I'm looking,
because you're also talking about like a dream, a vision. I'm talking tomorrow you have to legislate law.
I'm looking for a covenant, okay, not a declaration, in which, for example, we shall come to them, telling them, look, we the Jewish people, I think I told you, I spoke about it before, we the Jewish people, we created the concept of equality.
It's very interesting.
No, it's not very interesting. You know, everybody all over the world, at least in the Western world, they accept the idea that we Jews came thousands of years ago. When, you know, many people in Greek, they used to believe that they are living in a democracy. No, it was a democracy only to the
without
citizens.
Women, without slaves.
They had slaves, and they sold them. Look,
that's what I'm saying. I'm not worrying about the wording. I'm worrying about the meaning of the words.
The meaning of the word, that we came with the idea that all men are equal, created by God. It means that he can understand. It is a Jewish concept. Or example, democracy. Well, democracy is based on the Jewish idea that every ruler, prince, king, or whoever he is limited in his power. The whole story that above him there is a cloud of ideas. They call it constitution. We call it 10 Commandments. No king can pass a law that will be against one of the values of the 10 Commandments. And the whole stories of the Bible tell you about the tension between the prophet and the king. All the kings wanted more power in order to govern. And the prophet, by the way, in the Declaration of Independence, the kings are not mentioned. The prophets are mentioned. Because this is the whole concept of limitation of the power of the government or the king or whoever will be the ruler. So take 2 major concepts. And by the way, the Jewish people came with this concept when kings used to believe that they are gods. And the Jewish people came, no. The king, if you will ever have a king, he will be one of you. He will not be the son of God. So if you will try to explain, to translate these values to the language of every tribe, this should be the common denominator of the tribes. Nobody will give up on his tradition and his history and I don't know, the way he eats his food or whatever. We don't need it. We have to change our concept of melting pot.
So I agree. It's not just to change the melting pot. It is to accept the idea with deep awareness that actually we are all speaking Hebrew, but we are not only thinking with different languages, we are speaking different languages. Therefore, we must present the main idea. Just take, for example, the value of Shabbat, the Saturday. It is a social value and it is a religious value. And how it began in what was written in the Bible, that it is first of all to bring a rest to your horse, to your donkey, to your slave.
Right.
Yes, it begins with the workers. And in this way, I can came to deliver this idea to those who are living without any notion of God intervention in the world, and they are committed to this idea because it is exemplification of socialistic values, to give honor to people that working. The same about the others, the Orthodox. I will not come to tell them, listen, this is a very, very social idea. I'll tell them, it is your own idea.
Yeah, but I don't.
But at the end, I'll come
it,
to create a common denominator about how it is really take a form of living in our daily life.
You tell each one what they want to hear, but tomorrow you have to legislate laws. So how do you legislate the law that we'll have agreement upon when you all each have something else, something different in mind?
You cannot pass a law if you did not prepare your people.
Exactly.
And you know, the passing the law is the last stage, and this is why we cannot speak today on constitution and law reform.
Yeah, so put constitution aside, but the theme of okay.
I think that I agree that we cannot really create constitution, and I agree that trying to legislate equality will be very, very difficult. The details you will get into it is too extended. You cannot really do it. So you need someone who has the authority to interpret the law. And it's sometimes, in our specific case in Israel, creating the declaration of independence and some kind of a form of constitution, and giving a group who is well accepted by all the right and authority to interpret what's written there and to interpret what's equality to the context is, I think, the point of equilibrium in the Israeli society. This is why it is so important, the discussions we are having in Israel on the Supreme Court authority and freedom to interpret the law and to interpret some form of constitution. So if you accept that authority and you rely on them, you trust them, and you accept the declaration of independence as form of constitution, in the midst you will find whatever needed for daily life to realize, not to dream of equality.
You know Maidan, Rabbi Maidan?
Yes.
You know Professor Gabizon?
Yes.
Okay, this is a model.
Gabizon,
yeah, if Professor Rabbi Maidan and Professor Gabizon agreed on,
but we weren't able to fulfill it.
No, they didn't try. They didn't try. It's okay. We made mistakes, by the way, and if I can live with their agreement. This is exactly.
But I don't think the majority of the liberals today in Israel will be able to.
I think they can.
Maybe we'll explain
because it is not really a compelling constraints upon private life. It is not saying to everybody do this or this in your home. It is
public transportation, for example, during Shabbat will be open. For example,
today with this government, public transformation during Shabbat. I'm not speaking
about this government. I'm not speaking about this prime minister. I'm not speaking about any.
But so maybe this is the difference between you.
No, we are in agreement, because what we are really trying to explain here is that we are realizing the whole complicated obstacles. Speaking about the Israeli society. And we are trying, and I agree with Ami, not to compel it, to bring in a kind of agreement, and I think we can do that.
Tamir, do you agree? They talk. It seems that they're very optimistic, and you here in the institute.
No, wait, the devil is in the detail.
Yeah, the gaps between the gap between the groups in Israel are getting deeper and deeper.
We don't start with the devil. Well, look, if we have to try to restart Israel.
Meaning what?
Meaning to jump ahead 40 years, to dream our dream, to design our dream, and then to go back into the devils and the details. We are not doing this. This is exactly what they did. Mm-hmm. This was the only way to create, to found this place, which is a great country. I think that if we shall start with the details, we shall lose our way, because we don't have any compass today. We do not share any idea. First of all, we have to create our new compass, our new dream, and then to go back.
But the problem is, I mean, there is no trust. And we're in an atmosphere that there is no trust among the different tribes of Israel.
Only when it comes to politics.
No, there is no trust. And if there was trust, no problem. You will have the freedom to interpret it. They will accept the authority because everybody is so afraid of the other. They want the detail. And there, for example, if the ultra-Orthodox will accept the suggestion of constituting the Declaration of Independence and giving the High Court in Israel the authority to interpret it, they will be panicked because they don't trust the interpretation of the Supreme Court judges.
Let's dream.
Just a minute, to let me how the situation is difficult right now. So they will want the details in advance. Once you go into the details, you have it's open-ended situation where you cannot really.
We have to conclude. So you have. So this is your closer comment.
When I spoke about pragmatic dreamers, they started with a dream. If we start with pragmatism, we shall go nowhere. We have to start with our dreams 40 years from now, and then to go into the details.
Try to figure out a dream 30 years from now. By your suggestion, we'll end up that we'll try to figure out what the details of the 30 years from now, and that will create a chaos.
But your dream might be someone else's nightmare.
Okay, I'm jumping with just a kind of anecdote, speaking about Jack Sparrow from the Caribbean robbers. He got from the a very, very special magic compass. It can really lead him to the place he really dreamed to come to it, but it is really stuck if you are not really know what is your dream and what our expectations. This is our main mission today. We have a compass, but we lost the dream.
A captain who does not know where he wants to sail, there is no wind on earth that will bring him there. So start by telling us, where do we want to sail?
So we are all dreamers, and I think it's a nice way to conclude our conversation. Maybe we all have one nice dream to share. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Toda.